Hello everyone. In this lecture, we will see how a Python program communicates with the user using input and output operations followed by typecasting. Now let's see what an input is. When we use a calculator, we will be entering numbers in the screen using the keypad of the calculator, and the numbers which we enter in the calculator is what is called input here. And with those numbers there will be some backend operations and the result will be displayed on the screen of the calculator, and the displayed result is called the output. So in Python, input is the information entered by the user into a program. We have an input of function to receive input from the user in Python. We have a syntax to get input from the user, that is variable name equals input of is the Python function, and this is the message which we have to tell the user what information they have to enter. Whatever written inside the double quotes will be printed as such for to the user, so that they'll know what they need to enter. So there is a note here which says choose meaningful variable names that describe the information being collected. So that means when we are writing a program, we have to write variable names meaningfully. Like if you are collecting a patient's data, patient's age, patient's name, etc., the variable names should be meaningful, so that if someone else is reading your program, it would be easier for others to understand as well. If you use variables names such as a, x, data, etc., when a second or third person reads your program, they won't be able to understand what the variable contains, what it stores, or anything. So what is an output? As I said, output is the result displayed in the screen. It's the information or result produced by a program and displayed to the user after processing the input. Here the printf function is used to display output on the screen. Output can be text, numbers, calculation results, or even messages. So what is printf function? It is used to display output on the screen. This is the syntax of printf function. Print, and we can give what we want it to be displayed on the screen. Okay, the messages in the double quotes will be displayed as such. If when we are writing a name or getting some input from the user, also we can print it by just using the printf function carried by printing the variable which we have to print. Now let's see an example. Here, if we want to get information from the user, we have a syntax, that is variable name equal to input of the message which has to be displayed to the user to print what they have to enter. That is variable name is equal to input of enter your name. So when we run this line, this program is asking us to enter what's my name, entering Zara, and the information, this name is being stored in the variable name. To print this, we can use print of variable name. You can also get information from the user just by using input of function. As I am writing the program, I know what it has to be entered, but when a third person has to, if the third person has to know what information has to be entered, we have to print a message, of course. Here name is equal to input of, I can just enter Sarah, but if someone else is running the program, they may not know what information they are asking me to enter. Just line appears to enter the information and there is nothing specified. So it's always important that you write a message like what information to enter, so that the user might know what information the person who wrote the program is looking for. And that's how the input of and print of function works. This is the same thing. We are storing the patient name, and we have to print it like patient name semicolon the name of the patient. So this is how it works. We can copy paste it and see. Here patient name is Anjali, and if we want to print it like patient name semicolon Anjali, we have to write it like this, separated by a comma. Now when we run it, yeah, the output is patient name is Anjali. Now here is another example. You want to print the dose in middle followed by two strings in between. Dose and mg are the strings here, and this is the variable we have stored here. So it can be also done using comma separation. Yeah. So printing like this, you get medicine paracetamol, dose is 500. There exists a problem with input of function, that is the input of function always stores the entered value only as a string, regardless of whether the user enters text, whole number, a float or decimal number or anything. What respective of what information we enter using input of function, the computer will consider it as a string only. So to solve this problem, we have typecasting. Typecasting will convert one data type to another. That is, we can convert data type string to integer data type, into float, float to integer, as well as integer to string. So typecasting is useful when we need to perform operations that require a specific data type, such as mathematical calculation. Here, if as input of function is taking everything as int, so to perform calculations such as addition, subtraction, multiplication, etc., we will need to convert the input into integer format. So here we are checking whether we can perform addition using the input of function. We are getting input enter your age and trying to add two numbers. So the age is 20. We can't perform addition here because the age we got from the user is in string format. We can't perform addition with a string and an integer. For this, we have to convert the string to an integer. So let's see how. So this is how it is done. So age equal to int of input of enter your age. So int operator here is used to convert the string to integer data type. So this int of function will convert the age 20 into integer data type, and then we are performing addition. That is how we get the output 25 here. Moving on to types of typecasting, there are two types, implicit and explicit typecasting. In implicit typecasting, the conversion from one data type to another takes place automatically without we provide a code to convert it. While in explicit typecasting, we have to provide a code manually to convert from one data type to another. So moving on to explicit typecasting in detail. It's the manual conversion of one data type into another by using Python's inbuilt function. We have int of, float of, string of, and bool of functions to perform these conversions. Now let's consider an example. Here, if the user enters 20 as their age, we know that Python takes input of as a string. So it won't be an integer value stored. So if you want to perform any arithmetic calculations with the value entered by the user, we have to convert it into string to perform arithmetic operation. That can be done using int of function. When using a int of function in the entered string, the string which we got as input will be converted into an integer, and with this integer we can perform the operations we need, and finally the output will be displayed. And this is how explicit typecasting works. Going to an example, here we are getting input from the user using input of function, then we are converting the data type, that is int of age. Here we have used Python's inbuilt function int of, and we are printing after performing the arithmetic calculation age plus 5. Thus the output is 25. These are the built-in functions we have for explicit typecasting: int of, float of, string of, and bool of. These are some things we have to note when performing explicit typecasting. String to integer conversion is possible only if the string contains a whole number. Here, looking at this example, 25 is an integer, and so integer which is stored as a string when we store it in a variable, which we will be able to convert into integer by using an int function. But here in the second example, 20 is a set of characters being stored inside a variable, so this is a string. A string cannot be converted into integer data type by using int function. That's why conversion of string to integer will display an error if it doesn't contain a whole number. In the same way, string to float is possible only if the string contains a valid decimal or whole number. In the first example, we can see 98.6, which is a decimal number which we will be able to convert to float, and it will be displaying us 98.6, and 25 is a whole number which we, when converting to a float variable using float of function, we will be getting 25.0. But when we are trying to convert a string into float function, it is not possible. Thus, during execution, we will be getting an error. Moving forward to implicit typecasting, it's an automatic conversion of one data type into another data type for performing mathematical calculations. The programmer does not need to write any conversion functions. In this example, we can see that the variable age has value 20 of integer data type, and variable temperature has data 98.6 of float data type. While performing the calculation to preserve the decimal part of the data, the Python will automatically convert the integer value into float, and thus the final output of this program will be a float data type. Difference between implicit and explicit data type. In implicit data type, it's performed automatically by Python. No conversion function is required. It occurs only when Python can safely convert the data type. For example, here 20 is of integer data type and 98.6 is of float data type. So to preserve the decimal part of this, we will be converting the integer 20 to float. Thus the resulting output will be of float data type. Going on to explicit typecasting, it is performed using functions such as int of, float of, string of, and bool of. It's used when we need to convert a data type to specific data type so that we can perform some arithmetic calculation, and this is how we convert it from one data type to another, int of some input from the user. That's it. Thank you.